Okay. Hands are freezing. That's all right. That's all right. That's all right. All right, let's get the word out so we can get this started. I'm running a little behind today, y'all, and I apologize for that. We got the groceries in a bit late tonight, and I had to get the freezer stuff in because I didn't want it all defrosted by the time the show was done. So, welcome to the Bonnet Chronicles. I am your host, Kalari GXC. There's so much to talk about tonight. I think it's pretty obvious what we're going to start with. I mean, I don't know what else we would talk about at this point. The fact of the matter is, there are going to be people who try to spin this, try to make it seem like, they want to normalize the GOP and their role in what happened on January 6th. But this committee and this video that we're about to sit through is going to just highlight everything that I plan on talking about tonight, because we have to get to the heart of this, y'all. So I'm going to get ready to start this video up. We're going to watch it together. I'm not sure how the sound is going to come through on my studio, so I'm going to actually put on headphones this time and listen with y'all. It is very stressful to me, but I want to go over everything that happened on January 6th. And welcome to the chat, Respect. So we're going to get ready to fire this video up. And just warning y'all, this is going to be brutal. You're going to get to see a bunch of Trump foot soldiers for fuckery. Okay, let's get this working. Okay.
I am not allowed to say what's going to happen today because everyone's just going to have to watch for themselves. But it's going to happen. Something's going to happen.
Their streets, they're saying. This motherfucker.
I hope Mike is going to do the right thing. I hope so. I hope so. Because if Mike Pence does the right thing, we win the election. All Vice President Pence has to do is send it back to the states to recertify. And we become president, and you are the happiest people. Mike Pence is going to have to come through for us. And if he doesn't, that will be a sad day for our country.
Hopefully that helped.
Take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong.
Cruiser 50, it does look like we're going to have an ad hoc march stepping off here. There's a crowd surge heading east.
We love Trump! We love Trump! We love Trump! We love Trump!
The chanting that they're saying is just gross.
Mike Pence, I hope you're going to stand up for the good of our Constitution and for the good of our country. And if you're not, I'm going to be very disappointed in you. I will tell you right now.
Stuff that Trump is saying, it's completely planned. And then keep going. This is getting me upset, rightfully so, but we need to see this. Because people are trying to spin this, and you can't spin this. Look at this.
We just had protesters. Peace circle, breach the line. We need backup.
I don't blame you, Beans, and welcome to the chat. This is crazy. And they're chanting USA. Like, these are literally committing domestic terrorism. What?
Madam Speaker, the Vice President and the United States Senate.
50, we're going to give riot warning. The news outlet is here. We're going to give riot warning. We're going to try and get compliance, but this is now effectively a riot.
49 hours declaring it a riot.
It is a riot.
Cruiser 5 to 50, be advised, Capitol Police 1 advised they're trying to breach and get to the Capitol. 50, I copy. We're about 5 miles out. We're trying to make our way through all this.
Look at these guys. Angry, awful.
We have a breach of the Capitol! Breach of the Capitol to the upper level!
Jack, be advised, they're requesting additional resources on the east side as they've broken into that window and they're trying to kick it in.
Just getting there like y'all.
Without objection, the chair declares the House in recess pursuant to Clause 12B of Rule 1.
I can't imagine what the Capitol Police, and you know me, I don't have a great relationship with law enforcement. I don't think anybody deserves what they went through on January 6th at all.
A corrected set of facts, not the fraudulent or inaccurate ones which they were asked to previously certify. U.S. demands the truth.
The truth was your man lost. That was the fucking truth. Right, calm down. Look at that gala. Look at that. And they're calling for the vice president.
You pepper sprayed another American that was fighting for you, and that's a bullet.
This is so sick. This is so sick. This is a sickness. I feel sick. I legit feel sick. I know that this isn't the first time I've seen this, but just reliving this again, how do you not feel disgusted by the fanaticism of this? Like, that's all I see is fanaticism at this point. Basically, looking back when they were the foot soldiers for fuckery.
We can't hold this, we're gonna get too many fucking people. Look at this fucking vantage point, man. We're fucked.
This is insane. Oh my god.
We need an area for the House members. They're all walking over now through the tunnels. We're trying to hold the upper deck. We're trying to hold the upper deck now.
This is insane.
We need to hold the doors of the Capitol.
I really appreciate everybody who votes. For real. Anybody who watches this tonight. Anybody who feels any emotion from this horrible nonsense. I want y'all to know that we need to do our part. Because I'm going to talk about the other side. We are watching what they want. What they did last year. And I'm going to break down so much of the psychological elements to it. This is insane. And they were calling for Nancy Pelosi. They were looking the Cobb on. Flying that Trump fucking banner. This is fucking scary. This angry, awful
be
white people.
advised that Capitol Police is going to start moving their resources inside.
You look at the majority of that sea of angry, Trump-waving motherfuckers. You're not going to see too many of any melanated people in this. We didn't have time for that nonsense. COVID was a thing. And committing treason for Trump, it just ain't a black thing. I'm sorry. It's just not.
Okay, H208 with 4 members. The door's barricaded. There's people flooded the hallways outside. We have no way out.
It's insane. I can't imagine the fear that people who were trapped in there had to go through.
On the third floor, to use the subway themselves, it's time to evacuate so we can secure the members on the other side. Copy.
And that sounds like Eugene Goodson. The main reason why we didn't lose any senators, thank goodness.
What are you ready to do? One more time. What are you ready to do? And whatever it takes, I'll lay my life down if it takes.
Geezers. Losers.
That's why we showed up today.
Who literally would have nothing else going on for them. Calling themselves Proud Boys. And these women.
I have my cell phone back.
Angry banshees. This is ridiculous.
Station to come to that West Carriage store for backup.
And these are the same people that will have that weird-ass blue America flag. Respect the police if you're killing an unarmed black child, but not if you infringe on my right to be an ass, right?
The crowd was
fucking seditionist bitches.
The word love, the love in the air. I've never seen anything like it.
Love in the air. I like I said, I'm glad I played this video. I hate that it was necessary to replay what happened on January 6th. But I think it was necessary because we got to break down so much of what's going on. Because our media is trying to spin this as, oh, you know, the Dems are going to need key talking points even with this. And it's like, how much more do we need to say? The other side went full ham for fanaticism, for loyalty to Trump, to a Keystone Cop level of dictatorship. They were willing to storm our Capitol, break things, smear feces, threaten the lives of both the sitting Vice President, then Mike Pence, Nancy Pelosi, and anybody who didn't dare give them what they want. This is exactly why I don't fuck with our media currently, because anybody who isn't reporting this the way it should be, that January 6th, a former politician incited a domestic act of terrorism, incited people to go against social norms, go against the political process, and attack our Capitol. That a life was lost, and they had the nerve. I had to leave Twitter earlier because some weirdo, random right-wing guy was like, say her name. I'll say Ashley Babbitt because she's not a hero. She was a fucking treason committer, and she died for that cause. That same cause that sees a bunch of people sitting there in jail now. This woman, they did an article about, which pisses me off, talking about, oh, 6 of our kids are going to be without their parents. They didn't think about that when they decided to hop their asses to D.C. I bet she wasn't taking care of those kids in the first place, and they're already probably fucking radicalized too. And that is a problem that this nation really needs to face. The fact that all of those people were full-on radicalized, and there are still plenty of them who have not been jailed, or did not get a heavy jail sentence for actually committing domestic acts of terrorism, spurred on by Donald Trump. You can't hide from it. They literally have him on tape, talking about, if Mike Pence would just certify this the way I want him to. Sir, that's not how this works. 80 million more of us voted against you. We said no. You are fired. But you couldn't accept that. You couldn't accept the fact that for 4 years we put up with your ineptitude, your corruption, your ingratiating yourself and your children, the fact that you allowed both foreign and domestic acts of violence and horror upon us. Everything from the Stoneman Douglas shooting, which I forget about because that was early on in your presidency, the Yemen issue where we lost people, the fact that 4 soldiers died in Africa and still nobody understands what or how or why. Plutonium disappeared while you were in office. And your butt buddy felt full on emboldened to attack a whole other nation. And that was due to your machinations. And I know some people want to spin it, especially in our media, to try to be fair and balanced, that this is somehow this current administration's problem, but no. Everything that happened on January 6, 2021 was Trump. Everything these people did was because they were fully indoctrinated by the MAGA cult. Whether they call themselves a Proud Boy, which is the dumbest moniker I ever heard in my entire life, whether there was that old Meemaw screaming and yelling for Pelosi's blood, they literally had enough stupid-ass rubes who kept drinking that orange toxic Kool-Aid, who kept thinking, he's going to make us great again. Y'all were never great in the first fucking place. And now you will be known as the party of domestic terrorism. You will be known as the people who supported somebody who literally caused the death of over 1 million citizens through COVID because of his ineptitude. And you were really willing to sacrifice your freedom to try to impede the electoral process, and it's not okay. When Trump won in 2016, I hate even saying those words, because we all know that that election was not done in the proper format. We all had our inkling that something wasn't right, but we accepted what happened in 2016 because we had to, because grown people accept when things don't go our way. Grown people accept when we lose sometimes, even if it fucking hurts. And 2016 hurt. We didn't go storming the Capitol asking for that fucker's head, even though we would have deserved to, because he's a literal admitted sexual predator. We organized and we outvoted him. But his people, they weren't taught to handle loss. They weren't taught to have consequences for their actions. They were told the world is your oyster and people are supposed to cater to you because of your lack of melanin. And they literally, like a bunch of tantruming toddlers, stormed our Capitol looking for blood in the name of fucking Donald Trump. You realize how exhaustingly infuriating this is? That we need a committee when these assholes literally live stream themselves committing treason? Like, I don't know what more proof this nation needs that this country needs help. I don't know how much more proof we need that there are way too many people full-on indoctrinated by right-wing ideology, by the whole idea that somehow they are better than others because of a lack of fucking pigmentation. And that we have ignored this problem so much that we didn't think something like January 6th could happen until it fucking happened. We have to stop ignoring the issues. We have watched people literally be indoctrinated in this. And the scary thing is, so many people will twist us in so many different ways. And we have it on the far left too. These weird ideological leans. I want to tell you something about politics because I am very politically invested. I think it's important to be politically invested. But there is a fucking limit that I think a lot of people are just not hitting, that we need to be mindful of because it is dangerous. There are way too many people who treat politicians as if they're a cult that we have to be a part of, that we have to show nothing but loyal and fealty to, and that is not how politics are supposed to work. These are human beings that we elect to help pass laws and be our voice. They are not gods. They are not infallible. We do not have a fucking monarchy. You should be running around with banners of some politician acting like they are the end-all be-all. That is a sickness. And I cannot believe that it took what happened on January 6th for people to understand. I live in the fucking sticks right now in Michigan. Literally have neighbors that still have those fucking banners on the House. Talking about 2024, we're coming back. No, the fuck you're not, because your man's going to be sitting in jail, hopefully. And even if he's not, 80 million of us said no to him before. We will say no to him again. But the fact of the matter is, these people are still a threat. The ones that aren't going to be put in jail are still sitting there plotting and planning. Because if they get away with this, however the media tries to spin it, but it is domestic terrorism, if more of them aren't locked away, they are going to see how much further and how much lower they can go. We cannot play around with this, y'all. The indoctrination has been ongoing for years. This happened before Trump. I remember the Reagan era of the moral majority. The Conservative Party has been problematic for the longest time. So when I say what happened on January 6th doesn't shock me, but we need to do our part to stop it, I mean it. And I mean this for people who don't consider themselves conservative, but have their own little ideological leans for politics. If you are worshiping somebody who's running for office, you're doing this wrong. Every politician is a human being, and they are not above scrutiny. They are not above criticism. They are not above us weighing whether or not they are worth our vote. The problem with politics right now is the fact that too many people are turning this into a fucking game. Too many people want to play click and push people who can speak a certain thing. That's why so much of this bullshit with Liz Cheney has been going on. And I want to thank T. Biggs. Let me get to his thread. Because T. Biggs, who I love to follow, and if you're not following him, I don't see why not. He's amazing. Really broke down the problem with these people pushing Liz Cheney 2024. Because I don't even understand what about her. She's still on the party of the people who are literally targeting people's civil rights. Her voting for anything good is abysmal. I don't understand the media's obsession, but I need to show you how she votes. Removing the deadline for ramification of Equal Rights Amendment, she voted no. Violence Against Women Reauthorization 2021, she voted no. Enhanced Background Checks Act, she voted no. Bipartisan Background Acts check, she voted no. American Rescue Plan, you know that plan that was meant to help struggling families during COVID? Liz Cheney voted no. She stands with the GOP. The same GOP that allowed those fuckers on January 6th to do what they did. She is wholeheartedly okay with the quiet parts. But to me, she's just as okay with the loud parts as far as I'm concerned. She toes the party line. So you can fucking forget any Liz Cheney being the first female president. I would never. She would never get a vote from me. I don't want to hear any more about bipartisan bullshit either. Because what troubles me about the whole narrative the media is still trying to spin about this, even about the January 6th Commission, including CNN analysts talking about, oh, I just don't think this is exciting. Representative Thompson isn't exciting me. It's like, sir, this is a serious hearing about domestic terrorism. If you want excitement, go watch Law and Order. This is serious business for serious people. But the fact that people are trying to treat this like it is the Roman Colosseum, and they're expecting Trump to be dragged out in chains and pitchforks and stuff, is a problem with our society. Everything is a fucking game and spectacle, and America needs to grow the fuck up. We have played around with this far too long, and we are acting like fucking children, and it's exhausting. And pushing people like Liz Cheney, of all things, nah. And I full transparency, I say this as somebody who supports Kamala Devi Harris, our current vice president. I hope that the trajectory lands her where I feel she belongs as the first female president one day. But even if that didn't happen, and our first female president is somebody else, I am going to work hard to make that happen, but I am going to make sure that it is never Liz Cheney. It has nothing to do with Republican versus Democrat anymore. It has everything to do with how scary politics has become on both sides of the coin, how many people want to treat this like this election is just a football game. And I'm sorry, y'all, but we can't afford any type of fanaticism in politics. We need cool heads. We need people who are paying attention to who represents them, paying attention to the legislation they're trying to pass. We need people who understand that this current system is broken. It was never really sustainable in the first place, and we need smarter people in charge. Because sadly, our society has really built itself on wheat from the chaff ideology. And too many people think they're wheat when they're actually chaff. They don't want to be bothered to think. They don't want to be bothered to think beyond themselves, especially, but they definitely don't want to think about other people. But they also don't want other people telling them what to do. They have literally been raised by society to be spoiled, selfish, and entitled. And the only thing they have going for them is that they will fall in line and vote for whoever the GOP tells them to. They are a dangerous subset of our society that we have ignored, we have normalized, we have treated them like they are the heart and soul of this country. And then when the real heart and soul of this country, black women, said, no, it's time for us to show you what political power is, people have lost their collective mind. It's tiring, y'all. Welcome to the Chat Battle Club. Thank you for resubscribing. 3 months. I feel like the problem with our society is we have allowed for the longest time, since this country's inception almost, this belief that being a straight white Christian person meant you needed to have the moral authority, the only say in this country on how things are run, how things are going to be. And they don't always do the right things. In fact, historically speaking, a lot of our historical horrors and sins have been done by their ideology. Yet, when you try to call it out, you get shouted down. You've got a literal media system trying to steal both sides when we watched how the other side acts when they don't get their way. We've seen how the other side are when they're in charge of things. And all they have brought us is death and destruction. All they have brought us is misery. And there are still some people that would love to bring us back to that. We cannot afford this, y'all. But what I'm really wary of in this digital age, and that's why I want the tonight's title to be about the digital age, seriously speaking, is the fact that our side has its own issues with people treating politicians like they're your BFF. People acting like, I have to support this person no matter what. That the candidates aren't allowed to be human and change their minds and just be real about things. This is what happens when you go live before you, right after you put up groceries. You don't update your darn stream, so let me get that fixed. But getting back to it, it's hard not to feel scared in this time period, because you think that with the digital age and being able to even be able to share information and live stream and watching things with our own very eyes that aren't right, whether it's these rampant shootings, whether it's this attack on our Capitol, we are in an age where you can full on real time see something isn't right and call it out. Yet we have a whole group of people who are trying to reinvent this, trying to spin it, trying to make it seem like it's not as bad as what we see, and it is. And what's worse is they're still given legitimacy and relevance as a viable force, and we've got to stop that. Their indoctrination has been set. They have young kids already drinking that disgusting, toxic, conservative Kool-Aid. I hate to say that people are far gone, but I can't reach out to them, and I'm not going to. All I can do is talk to people who I feel have enough sense to understand that, yes, I want you politically invested. I think that is the most important message I give to people all the time on these Bonnet Chronicles. Invest yourself. But don't become so involved that you lose yourself. Know who you're backing. Know who you're standing up for. Know who your voice is and fucking vote. It really is that simple. And it's okay to like certain politicians. I'm a fan of the Obamas. I love the vice president and the first gentleman from a fan standpoint to a certain extent. But I am not fanatical about Senator, now VP Harris. I think that there's a danger in being that way in politics that a lot of people don't take seriously until it's too late. I don't want anybody pushing for a dictatorship just because it seems benign. And I don't want anybody thinking politics need rock star level devotion. We just want smart people who know how to speak to other world leaders and keep us from fucking falling completely into chaos all the time. Which isn't easy to do because, like I said, we have a whole subset of humans who have been raised to be societal's toddlers. And we really need to start dealing with this issue because we ain't going to get any help from the media who still try to act like, oh, the heart and soul was in the Rust Belt. No. The Rust Belt has been rotten for a while now, and I'm tired of hearing people try to make these people's misery as legitimate as everybody else's. Why is their struggle getting write-ups? The people who died in Buffalo were struggling too. The people who died in Buffalo still tried to make the best of it. They had one supermarket in a literal food desert, and a fucking racist took that from them. So I don't want to hear shit about some Rust Belt asshole who probably messed away his farm subsidies. And now all of a sudden is feeling dejected and dissatisfied because the government didn't give me everything I wanted. It's giving it to everybody that don't look like me. And so I'm angry. Trump told me he was going to make me great, and then they took that from me too. So I'm going to be mad. And I got guns, so all I can do is cause harm. And this is the fucking cycle that the media tries to normalize, that people who are related to them try to downplay because they're ashamed. But you've got to stop. We have got to stop coddling these assholes. We have got to stop pretending like they have a viable path to any political power anymore. And we need to shut it down by doing our fucking bare minimum by voting. It is not a drill. This is not a joke, y'all. This is so scary that it even got to that point. But it's not surprising. This has been ongoing for years. Yeah, George W. Bush probably wouldn't have had people this loyal to him. But he's not a cult of personality. Reagan may have, but he was smart enough to realize, I want to look like a legitimate politician. It took somebody who is both craven, loved the limelight, and really thought he was in the role of dictator to do everything the GOP was hoping for. Trump is a culmination of every single misstep the Republican Party has tried to cover up. Whether it was the warmongering, misappropriating funds of several other past presidents, whether it's the fact that they pushed themselves as the moral majority when most of the scandals, whether it's child trafficking, whether it's pedophilia in general, tends to come straight from them. The calls are coming from the House when it comes from the Conservative Party. And they love to try to deflect and push that onto the Democrats. But all we have to do is hold up a mirror and do our part by voting for people who aren't them. It's tiring, y'all. I even have to say that in this day and age. When we have literally seen, point blank, that video, how the other side is indoctrinated. And all we have to do is be wiser, pay attention. If we're 18 and up, go and cast a ballot for somebody who isn't a wackadoo, who isn't on Trump's agenda, who isn't still assimilated to that party. Because I'm sorry, even if you're not a Trump conservative at this point, your party's tainted. And I don't know what to tell you. It's not easy to start over. But I can tell you this much as a Democrat. If this was my party acting like that, being responsible for literal domestic terrorism, not no more. Wouldn't be me, man. I cannot understand the level of devotion. But then again, I've never been in the cult. I've been accused of being a cult leader because I tell people to think for themselves. And people actually want to listen to some of the stuff I say. But I don't got the energy to do anything like that. I just want people to be smarter. I know we have the potential to be better, but there are people that are literally lazy. Y'all look for things like Liz Cheney as your savior and your hero instead of doing better yourself. Liz Cheney ain't no hero. She ain't no savior. She votes to the line for everything that McConnell and McCarthy and all the rest of those fuckers want. She, Collins, all of them, they are all the fucking same. Just pick me, yes, girls. And you can say what you want about Manchin and Sinema on our side, because they're not a walk in the park either, but they vote the line as well. And they vote for things we need them to vote for. What bothers me about even having to say stuff like this, and we are still corrupted by this system. And we are the reason, because people stay home during midterms. And they think, oh, I'm doing something. You're impeding the process that could help get us safer gun reform. You're impeding the process that could protect women's rights to choose. You're impeding the process that could pass things like the Voter Rights and Protection Act and the John Lewis Act and the George Floyd Act. Your apathy is a detriment to us all. And if you're not going to do your bare minimum in political investment, you have nothing to say. I don't want to hear what you have to say about what happened on January 6th. I don't want to really hear what you have to say about anything political. Because if you're not going to do your part to make things better, you don't have any right to bitch. Honestly speaking, politics isn't easy. Having to know what's being passed isn't easy. That's why we elect people to do the job. But when you refuse to even know who represents you and to have somebody who's going to represent you that's wanting to do their job, what's the point? We are no better than those toddlers that stormed our Capitol if we can't even take the time to focus on who represents us. And I want you to have the kind of politician that pisses these people off. I live in Michigan. My governor was on a fucking hit list. I still can't wrap my mind around the audacity of these people. Gretchen Whitmer said, I want to protect the state of Michigan. So I'm going to put a mask mandate. I'm going to shut things down. I want COVID to not destroy lives. And the thing she got for it was a fucking plot. 14 fucking magoobers decided we're going to kidnap and destroy this person because she told us what to do. And we don't want the government telling us what to do. These same people will say that the government ain't giving them their checks fast enough. The government's causing the gas prices. The government this and the government that. They have a lot to say about the government and what the government should and shouldn't do, but the government can't tell them what to do. They are fucking toddlers. And I'm going to vote once again to elect Governor Whitmer because she is doing the right thing. She has the right people angry at her. But I don't feel worried that they still feel bold enough to put her name on a list and threaten her life. We're not dealing with people who operate on a decent level. on a humane level. They are indoctrinated and they are in rural rot. So, of course, that's all they hear from Fox propaganda, their pulpit, and other rubes just like them who regurgitate hateful, harmful talking points. And we have allowed their ideology to run rampant. We gave it legitimacy. We let them have these talk shows and podcasts and think tanks. We don't challenge Fox propaganda. They're not showing this January 6th committee stuff because they know it makes their people look bad. They're going to try to spin this as if this is just the Dems railroading innocent people. No. These people are literally on tape, live streamed, storming our Capitol and committing treason. We cannot allow them to twist this narrative as anything but. And we need to be wary on our side, anybody trying to say, oh, the Dems need to fall in line like the other side. No, we don't. We just need to do our part to vote. We need to do our part to be informed. We need to be better about who we back. But we definitely do not need to act like the other side. Especially after seeing that video. I don't understand anybody who's still saying stuff like that, but there were quite a few this week. I know I wasn't on a lot because I've been really working hard on getting the book ready. A bit nervous about that, but I'm excited. My sci-fi novel will be published soon. I'm going to do the self-publishing route for now because I really just want to get the story out there. But I did jump on Twitter, and when I say that the contrarians are the ones that really got on my nerves this week, saying things like Speaker Pelosi hasn't done anything for the LGBT community, which is bullshit. She has been there since the assassination of Harvey Milk. Her, Senator Feinstein, some of these people who were in the trenches during some of the worst for the LGBT historical rise. And then you have people with platforms who should know better. People I used to respect saying things like, oh, well, we need more people with skin in the game. But you're not doing your part to help elect actual LGBT senators and representatives. No, you rather ding the people who are doing their damnedest to hold the line. It is exhausting. And these people are constantly amplified with their negative bullshit. And we need less of them and more people who talk about what we can do to organize, what we can do to ensure that we have more than a 50-50 majority split and get stuff passed, because that is the only way we're going to have a functioning government. And we need it on a state level because our media loves to ignore that little factoid. But I'm going to keep reminding you that the president is not a dictator. He can only do so much. He was on Jimmy Kimmel, and I think he put it succinctly, but I'm going to remind people that executive orders cannot override a state's will. And if he put out an executive order right now completely banning assault weapons, which I would love to see, states like Texas and we ain't got to listen to that. States like Florida and Alabama, and even here in Michigan, sadly, could say, we ain't got to listen to that. So who represents you on a state level fucking matters. And we have seen in places like Texas what incompetence can do. In places like Uvalde, in how they handled last year's snowstorm where people died. Y'all need to get rid of Abbott. And you need to send Cruz packing as well. And don't get me started with Georgia. I have people that I love and care about in Georgia. I don't talk to them much right now. I have friends that I do talk to that are still there. The fact that Kemp is going to fucking do dirty stuff to try to keep that place, y'all need to be on alert. And when I say y'all, I'm not talking to my people. The people who are already making their plans to be in long-ass lines because our polling places down there are awful and abysmal. But black voters will turn out. I'm talking to those of you who don't have those obstacles, who could do more and help us out, who say things like, I gotta hold my nose. You don't have to do that this time. You have Stacey fucking Abrams running. Do your part. Show us that we're wrong about your demographics, because you will jump. You like parachute into anybody black or non-white who talk about your demographic and the way you fall in line for that orange turd. So not all. I don't like the way you're talking about white people. It makes me feel bad, and I just want to come and say not all at you. I want you to save that fucking energy that you constantly find to try to not all at people like me. And organize. Get your people to the fucking polls, because they're not being gerrymandered. They are not being restricted. They are not dealing with broken polling machines. They are not dealing with being turned away. You have the ability to show us, who have been talking about your asses for the last 4 years, that we were wrong about you. I don't want to hear not all anymore. I don't want to see you on social media getting all uppity and defensive of your demographic, who is still at 47% for women and over 60% for white men voting for fanaticism. So if you got enough energy to whine to me about the rest of your demographic, who I should try to give credit to, which FYI I am not until you do better. You have enough energy to organize in places that are going to need all of us. I'm tired of you expecting my demographic to turn out, which we're gonna, because black women, we know what's on the line. We knew the assignment. That's why we come out strong. Our poll numbers are consistently in the 90 percentile range. And even for the few sister girls who thought it was lucrative to go to the other side, you know, like those birds like Candace, they're not even a 1% margin, because they know that it's not a lucrative field. They might get money here and there, but they're drying up. Because the Conservative Party barely treat white women decently. They're definitely not going to treat those idiots decently. So when I say the people who need to turn out, people who need to show the GOP that we are no longer playing, I'm not looking at my people. I'm looking at the same women, especially because it's always y'all. Y'all are the most sensitive about this. I'm sure there's a few butthurt white men, but I probably have them all blocked at this point. But it's always these wannabe blue wave emojis. I'm a white woman in my 60s. I've been voting Democrat since Huey. And you can't tell me how to feel about the way you're talking about my demographic. And it's like, you know what? I've had to deal with bonnet lifting all my life. I don't get to escape from my skin tone, and I don't want to. I am beautiful and black. But it comes with the heaviness of people assuming stuff, people putting things on my feet that I don't have anything to do with, me having to hear about things my people do as if I'm like in control of all of that. And I have never in my life had to say not all black people, because I don't know all black people. I say not my people, because I know my people and what they're doing, and I know when my people fuck up, I don't have to claim that either. But what bothers me is that when I talk about white people in general, what we can do if you don't like the fact that over 50% of your demographic, if you're male, are voting for fanaticism, and over 40-something% if you're female, are A-OK, towing the line and being gatekeepers for fanaticism. That you could do something about it. And your response to me is, I don't like the way you said white people. I want to focus on that instead. I ain't got time for you anymore. We have so many key elections coming up, and people are already voting in special and midterm election things. Beans, I want to thank you again for already getting your ballot out early. And in August, our midterm stuff starts firing up here in Michigan. We have to stay informed. And welcome to the chat, Arcanaverse. It is so vital in this day and age, despite being digital, despite being able to talk to you live about this, for you to even second guess the stuff I say. I want you to fact check and question. I will do my part to not put out misinformation. I will do my part to research. Every Bonnet Chronicles I do, there's constantly notes. There's constantly me looking up so that I know what I'm talking about. Even when I'm using Twitter, I try to be careful. But I am not an infallible source. And I don't trust anybody who tries to act like that. I am just a human being who gives a fuck about this world still. Who is trying my best to do better so that there can be better for everybody. But I can't do this on my own. And I need people to understand that I know it sucks. You've been told probably most of your life that don't worry about politics, right? Yeah, don't think about that. You get people in celebrity especially are like, I don't want to think about politics. It gives me a headache. But that apathy comes with a cost. And we have seen the tolls of our apathy and our ignorance. Every school shooting could have been prevented by laws that policymakers who care would have put in place. But our apathy allowed it to not be. Every time something like what happened to George Floyd, or Ahmaud Arbery, or Elijah McCain, or Breonna Taylor, or any of the multitude of black lives that have been lost to injustice has happened. Every time I think of how the George Floyd Policing Act has been stalled on our congressional desk, I suppose, I think this is on us. You could try to blame Biden or his VP, but that's ignorant. You need to know who's your representative and whether or not they're like Liz Cheney and voted against these things, or they're like Senator Stabenow here who voted for these things. You need to know who your voice in that Congress is. Would they have been like that asshole Hawley who had his fist up and cheering on literal sedition? Or like that asshole Bobber who was literally trying to quote 1984, which I know some people are like, oh, she has a GED. She probably didn't read Orwell. I believe she read Orwell and didn't understand it. Some of these people really freaking think they can quote things from 1984 and not see the irony of that. Because there's only one side that literally wants us to not take in what we just saw. They want us to not take facts as facts. They've used things like alternative facts. And if they had their way, they would still be in charge running shit into the ground. And I'm sorry, it shouldn't have taken COVID. But I still feel like that virus was karma coming for this nation because it needed something to shake people enough to realize that this idiot, this incompetent moron was not it. And even though he was trashing our economy slowly but surely, getting us into fights here and abroad, literally in bed with dictators, it took the death of hundreds of thousands of Americans to a literal preventable disease for us to realize that we needed to make sure he wasn't president anymore. And whether the other side likes it or not, no matter how many times they try to threaten, coerce, and recertify stuff, 80 million more Americans said no to Donald Trump. It really is that simple. But what's not simple is where we go from here. We can't pretend like what happened in January 6th is a one-off. That is so dangerous and ignorant. We can't pretend like these constant rises in both gun violence and these desperate acts by really fanatically indoctrinated people can no longer be taken seriously. We need to do our part to not only elect better officials, but to start targeting their propaganda, which means we need to take on Fox propaganda. It's got to stop. It's literally banned in some countries. I don't see why they are still treated as a legitimate news source here when they are not. They're news entertainment. They're just awful. But until that day happens, people like me and people like you need to do our part to stay informed, do our political bare minimum by voting, and have representatives who are willing to not only get laws passed that protect us, but also start building an equal society, because that is the society we need. This whole idea of separate but equal is bullshit that certain demographic thought that they could pull over on us, but it doesn't work. And the whole idea that their side is legitimate after the last few years needs to stop. We have to really call out all of their antics, all of these shenanigans, and stop acting like they are a viable political party. And we really need to take every majority that they have away from them, any chance at a majority ever again. And a lot of them are piecing out because they realize that throwing all themselves into that orange, ugly wicker basket of Trumpism was forever going to stain them, was forever going to taint them. But some of them are still fully indoctrinated, and they do not need to be walking our congressional halls. Assholes like Ted Cruz, who literally stood there and let that man say, your father might have been responsible for JFK, and talk shit about his wife. We knew Ted Cruz didn't have a spine. Why the fuck is he still a senator? And don't even get me started on Florida again. You got child fucking traffickers like Matt Gaetz and DeSantis running your fucking state into the ground. It is on us to make things better. Those of us who don't fall under their normal Americans, those of us who know we're American, those of us who have deep roots, whether they were forcefully implanted from our ancestors or whether we belonged here before this was even America. Because we count too. And I know that the loud assholes who are like, you can't replace us. Nobody's trying to replace you, Male Team 6. Nobody's even looking at those people, but we should be. We should be casting the harsh spotlight on them, making sure those who were there and committed these acts do serious jail time, and reinforcing to anybody who's constantly in these little terror sects, because we know you're still out there. We know some of you who think that you are going to get away with something bigger are out there, but you're dumb. And one good thing about the digital age is that we can see you in real time, plotting and scheming and doing these things. And it's got to be on us to not only make sure that these plots don't come to fruition ever again, but to turn these motherfuckers in when we see this. I'm not on Facebook. I have my Facebook account still. I have not legally, I don't even say legally, I've not literally logged in almost 6 years. Facebook just does not interest me anymore. Between the rampant racism, misogyny, homophobia, everything I've seen wrong. And my Facebook was mostly family. So you can imagine how troubling it was for me. But I just don't have the urge to be on Facebook or Meta or whatever the fuck it wants to call itself. But I know that there are people that are still on there, and I know that you see what's going on. And you don't have to always confront these people and argue and drag them. I know that's exhausting. But if you see people saying problematic things, get a screen cap, and if it's serious enough, we need to start reporting this. I'm not one for narking, as it's called. Never been one for that. I grew up with people who would have thought narking and ratting were literally a death sentence. But we have to do our part to stop allowing the normalcy of digital domestic terrorism, of allowing them to organize openly in our face, to fly treason in our face, and try to corrupt our future political process. And I don't think there is anything wrong with monitoring social media and weeding out this kind of stuff. But we can't rely on the people who run these sites to give a fuck. So it really is on us, whether we form action groups or whatnot, but it has to start being done because they are still loud. They still call themselves proud, even though if you look at any of those so-called Proud Boys, it's like, what the fuck are you proud of? Like, for real. I legit do not... I understand having arrogance. I understand having a bit of an ego. But when you look at what these people are about, I just don't understand what they are proud of. Of their ignorance, of their racism, of their inability to spell and grammatical errors. I don't understand what they're proud of. But what I do know is they are going to be wearing those Proud Boy tattoos and all the rest of that bullshit in Prison Orange. So many of them have been rounded up and arrested. So many of them are literally sitting in federal prison whining about their dietary needs, like that weirdo buffalo helmet wearing shaman. These are little white kids cosplaying as patriots. And what troubles me as a child of actual servicemen, people who risked their lives, people who went to actual wars, actual patriots who came home to Jim Crow and other bullshit, these fucking assholes whose only military, if you can even call it that, influence is Rocky and Rambo movies and fucking Call of Duty video games, are calling themselves patriots and flying Trump flags and attacking the people that you tell people like me to comply to all the fucking time. But it's okay when you do it because you wanted to overturn an election. You can't make this shit make sense, y'all. And I'm going to get ready to wrap this up with this thought. Because I know I spent the whole hour ranting about January 6th. But I want you to think on the level of what do we do from here? I know it feels like every day we are inundated with more tragedy, more senselessness. Job security isn't where it needs to be still. The economy is going through some things because the last guy was a fucking idiot. And we had a global pandemic and the world is shifting. We need to be smarter about the way things are. Things are always going to be up, down, and in between, but how we handle stuff will get us through this. So if your current state of mind is, oh, things are bad and it's never going to get any better, you need to get over that. If your current state of mind is things are bad, but it's not the worst, and here's what I'm going to do to make things better, I need to focus on this, you're in a good headspace. And I know it feels like it's hard to get there, but it really isn't. Take breaks from the internet especially. I know it feels like it's impossible, but you can turn Twitter off. You can turn Facebook off. You can take a step away, even if it's for a day to start. Take time and protect your peace. And then when you are online, verify the stuff you intake. Don't just regurgitate something because it sounds good to you. Know what you're talking about, and don't put anything out there that you can't verify. It is so important in this digital age because there are so many people who want to craft narratives. There are so many people who want to formulate the way you think instead of you thinking for yourself. So you have to be careful. I want you all to do better, and I want us all to be better, but we have to be the front line in our own life for that. Now, I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. I still got groceries that I gotta get put away and stuff. I will be back on tomorrow for some Lost Ark and on Sundays for some BDO. And then I will hopefully be back here on Tuesday. I know the last few Tuesdays have been touch and go for that. Health-wise, it was a bit rough, but this week coming up is my birthday week, so I do plan on doing a whole bunch of content for that. So I will be on. You will see my mug a lot this week coming up. But I am going to get back to getting this house together and back to editing because I got a book that I got to get launched this year too. So there's a lot on the horizon, y'all. But I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you all so much for sitting in. Beans and respect. Thank you so much. Ballot Club for your resubscribe. Honey, I know he's up front. I heard him with the vacuum cleaner. Our Caniverse, everybody who tunes into these, I really appreciate you. I will see you all sometime next week if you're back for Bonnet Chronicle, and tomorrow if you're in for the gaming stuff.